Well, hello again, everybody. We're here with Kirk Prosick on another episode of Exploring Worlds. Today we're curious about the media, and we're wondering, Kirk, where do you get your news?
Well, you know what? I don't watch the mainstream news. I mean, people could be watching from anywhere, so there's different news networks depending on where they are. Here it's global news, I guess, right, is what the main news that everybody watches around here is. I don't watch that. I make a deliberate effort not to watch it because I believe most of it's propaganda. It's too negative and too depressing to watch and all that kind of stuff. But I can't help but oversee it because a lot of people I know watch it, so if I'm visiting somebody it's on, or people, you don't even have to watch it because people, a lot of my news comes, a lot of the mainstream news, like say from around here would be on global news, comes to me from word of mouth because I don't really have to watch it because everybody talks about what's on it, so I hear it through word of mouth. And so yeah, not a lot of news. And I mean, as far as when it comes to, if I'm looking for news on a current event, I try to go for a documentary that's been recently made about the subject, or somebody on YouTube who either is very interested in it or is somebody who either works or used to work in a field that gives them that gives them a knack for knowing about it. Or I'll go on. I mean, yeah, I'm not a huge follower of social media, but I guess I do get most of my news from social media, in the sense where whether it's a YouTube channel or something on some sort of social media outlet, but I tend to not go to what just people are saying as their opinion. I tend to go for ones that's actually like, okay, this person used to work in the government, or this person used to do environmental studies or whatever. Now they have a channel or a outlet on social media where they talk about what they think's going on due to their experience, rather than just somebody's opinion on it. So a mix between all those things, from overseeing the news when I'm visiting somebody, to word of mouth, to the media, to the social media, is pretty much where I get my news.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand that a lot of people actually follow along with documentaries, believing that they are, in a sense, a higher state of truth. And yet, as we know, these are also funded privately in a lot of cases, and people are bringing their opinions along, even if they are scientists and, scholars and all that kind of stuff. So how do you determine when you have the truth? How do you determine the truth when you are listening to, we'll just say an argument, but just anything really, and you got two different, viewpoints? How do you ascertain the truth and all that?
Well, I don't think that anything that you can't see with your own eyes, or that you aren't actually physically a part of, you're going to know the full truth to. But I think that a documentary is at a higher level of truth, whether there's, of course, opinions of the person making it and the people involved in it infused into it, but I do believe it to be a higher truth than, say, global news or something like that. So, but I try to keep an open mind and take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, unless I've worked in the field they're talking about, or live in an area where I can see it happening, or at least know somebody closely that has dealt with the subject matter that they're speaking of, then I don't fully know if it's 100% truth. So you have to think for yourself a little bit, I guess, and kind of be a little skeptical. But yeah, I do believe it to be a higher level of truth than global news, though. I will repeat that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of our viewers has left a comment saying that they believe everything that is told on television. What would you say to them?
They believe everything that was told on
They
television.
believe that, yeah, what they're hearing on the news is to be trusted, and in all cases.
Yeah, you know what? I don't have a thorough opinion on that. That seems ridiculous to me, but I don't know what would possess somebody to feel that way. I guess they're just that and I hate accusing people of being like, I'm not like one of these conspiracy people. Like I hate confusing people for being brainwashed and all of that kind of stuff. Which I mean, some people are, but you would have to be like to that level to believe everything on television would to me is a form of some sort of either brainwashing or just complete like no thinking for themselves. Just like I yield to the powers that be. I yield to the news and journalists and the government and stuff like that, right? Like, there's no questions asked. It's just, you say it, I believe it, I follow it. It's complete loyal dedication to something. For some reason, they might have either been raised that way or they're that naive and innocent that they've never experienced anything that opposes that. But I don't know. It seems ridiculous, though. You know? Right?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned brainwashing, and I've always wondered, how do we actually wash a brain away from being brainwashed? And I think about this example as if I wrote down on a piece of paper that it was like $1 million, and I've convinced somebody that it is absolutely $1 million on that piece of paper, and he's running around now. He's thinking, "Oh man, I got $1 million in my pocket." What kind of advice would you give us in order to help him get a firmer grasp on reality?
I think it would need some heavy-duty training, because honestly, I can't relate to the whole brainwashing thing. I mean, I suppose everybody's brainwashed to some degree, shape, or form. I mean, even if it's for a very completely good thing and good reasonings behind it. I think anybody that... I mean, I'm not a parent, you're a parent. I'm sure raising kids, there were certain good values that you tried to sort of brainwash into them as best as you possibly can. I think that's a good thing, and that's a natural thing that everybody is subjected to. And I don't even mean subjected to in a bad way. It could be a bad way, but I think everybody is a part of that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But as far as being an adult and always thinking for myself, and again, I don't walk around claiming to be some hardcore rebel or anything like that, but I can't relate to the whole brainwashing thing. I mean, I believe that people and establishments and outlets have tried with me before, and it just doesn't work. Like, I've just always naturally had the ability to think for myself, or if I can't find the answer, just hold off on it and allow myself to come to my own conclusion and kind of realize how one side is right to a certain level and another side is right to a certain level, and rather than arguing, there's some sort of common ground that could be found. And I've never really understood how somebody could be brainwashed to either follow everything that the government says or everything that the news says, or to follow everything that some leader or something says, or to believe that another category of person or race of person is like, I don't understand how one could be radicalized to become like a neo-Nazi or something like that. I also don't know how somebody could be brainwashed or radicalized to become a member of a gang or something like that. Like, it just seems, and unfortunately a lot of these people had like really bad childhoods and that, but still it just seems really, really strange to me that somebody would lack the capacity to think for themselves and buy into what these people are infusing them to believe about somebody else, something else, whatever, right? It just seems awfully bizarre to me.
Well, we know that the newspapers are written on average for an 11 or 12-year-old person.
Yeah.
Because propaganda is based on, having a very simple message and repeating it over and over again until people have lost the capacity to reason away from it.
Yeah.
And so I guess maybe the best solution is just awareness, and you mentioned the word arguing. Philosophically, an argument is a very healthy thing. It's two people, so to speak, or two different viewpoints sit down and they hash it out. And I think somewhere in all that process of that communication, I think there are some things that can be established through that process. So perhaps just increasing our communication with each other would facilitate a lot of understanding in our world at this time.
For sure. For one, maybe that's why it was hard for me to become brainwashed, because I always, I never watched I never read newspaper when I was 11 or 12. I read a lot, but I never read the newspaper when I was 11 or 12. And I mean, yeah, I do believe that an argument is a healthy thing sometimes. But yeah, there's usually some sort of way that it could be bridged together, rather than
Right.
brainwashing people to be on completely yield to one side or the other.
Right. Yeah, well, maybe we just need to encourage debate, amongst, people with differing viewpoints, and therein find some sense of a balance through that. Okay, Kirk, thank you for your input on this matter.
Thank you, Peter.
Appreciate you very much.